Yes, we are back again with the massive modular board, making the little hill, the one that's closest to the camera right now, in 4 parts. Let's have a look at it more close up. It looks a little something like this, spinning around on the turntable there. So we've got some really nice vertical, kind of rocky sides. We've got some thicker grass on the top of it. We've got two ways of getting up to it. And overall, I think it looks pretty awesome. So how do we make this? So we start by making what the bottom footprint of the hill is like. So I kind of wanted this to be nearly as big as the 4 tiles it's going to sit on. So underneath we've got the 4 tiles, which will be forming the base of it. And I'm just kind of roughly marking what that's going to look like. So those 4 tiles are going to be the base. If you want to know how to do them, then go back to the first videos. Don't need to be going over it again. Nearly sliced my hand off there. And we're just randomly hacking here. Got a couple of marks I'm roughly working to, but in general, I'm just being quite random about what the shape's going to be like. Thinking about maybe that there's going to be a way up on the kind of opposite corners, because that's what I intend to find works best with these modular hills. So just, yeah, carving and hacking, trying to make it as random as possible, and then doing it a little bit deeper. And then once you've got to a certain depth, you can just snap it. And that's kind of what the footprint of the hill is like, and just lay it down there. And then from here I'm just taking the random offcuts and working out how they might work with the rest of it. So stacking some on top of each other, putting one on top of the other upside down, and then drawing the line to make sure that it kind of match up. But it's really getting like an idea of what the stacked up pieces are going to be like on top of each other. So here I drew around the whole thing, and then I've got a 10mm one on top of the 20mm. So I've got a 20mm, then a 10mm, then some other 20mm ones on top. So now working on the first upslope, which is going to have a nice open weight of getting up. So just putting my handheld hot wire cutter. If you don't have one of these and you're working with foam, I really recommend that you get one. You can do some really nice detailed stuff that you struggle to do with a table hot wire cutter. They're relatively inexpensive as well if you're doing a whole bunch of work. So just flattening that out into like a nice slope. And then for this corner, just holding the different pieces in place so that they all can be, they didn't want to glue them at this stage, just holding them firmly in place, and just kind of doing a seesaw kind of action with the hot wire cutter there to kind of create a nice, interesting thing that you can satisfyingly snap off. And if you were to just do that, then it would look like a pretty decent cliff. But we want to do more than that. Can't wait to see the lake, the big hill, or the waterfall finale? You don't have to. They're all already up on my Patreon, and for just $2, you can gain instant access and you help support the madness of building all of this by hand. Back to the build. So if you were to just do that, that would be plenty, but we're also going to be doing more than that. So doing the other corner and the other upslope. So this time I'm using the hot wire cutter horizontally and doing this like soaring action, which works quite well, particularly if you're going across to do an upslope. So you do that. I'm trying to get as much depth as possible, but instantly you can see if you were trying to do this with a knife, it would take forever. It wouldn't take forever; it just takes a long time. Because I have done it. Um, then working on just the second layer down, just trying to get that slope a little bit flatter because we want models to be able to sit on that without tipping up. And now once that's been cut, you can realign the pieces again and work on the next couple of layers and just make one continuous slope, which ends up looking pretty good, I think. And working into the rock face as well. We peel those bits off and we're getting what's looking like a nice slope now. And you can do some more work on that, and I did do some more work on that to get it looking better. Now going around the rest of it, and we're going to have a slightly different style of, slightly different shape, I should say, by having the hot wire cutter be going more at an angle rather than vertical. So you see I went from one to another, doing the inside of the top here, just flattening out so there's a slope so you can get up to the very highest part of the hill as well. And this is how I'm making the cliff faces look like cliff faces. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of horizontal slashes, as you're seeing here, different heights, varying the angle ever so slightly, varying the angle of the blade ever so slightly as well, and random bits fall out, and you end up with a very realistic, I think, looking thing. I'm not really thinking about what I'm doing, and it also hides the joins between the different. Like, you've got 3 different pieces of foam there, 120, 110, and then another 20. So doing that across the entirety of the outside really made it look very cliff-like. Gluing it all together now, nothing complicated here, just, because of the way that we've cut it, it's really easy to see how it all aligns. So just putting some hot glue down and then holding it in position. You see how I'm leaving some gaps there? That's because we don't want our hot wire cutter in a minute having to cut through dried hot glue, because it doesn't work so well. So thinking roughly about where I'm going to be cutting through and making sure that there isn't any hot glue that's going to be left for it to cut through. So you could measure that. I just eyeballed the entire thing. Now, to cut through it and to cut through it accurately, placing a wooden board, I thought a long time about exactly how this was going to be cut through, the alignment of it. Once I knew it, it was just a case of holding the whole thing steadily on top of this board and then running it through the hot wire cutter. You can do this with a knife. It does take a bit longer. It's not as accurate, but yeah, this is about as quick and simple as you can do. So you do this one, and then with your smaller boards, which are going to form the base of the entire thing, you can just run the whole thing through like that to cut the other pieces to the correct size. This appreciate this is sped up, but you can see it literally takes seconds, so it's a pretty quick process, as is the gluing them to the bases themselves, because you've got your 90-degree corners all lined up, and you just have to line them up with the base bits. So hot glue down, line them up, and get a little bit of working time, jiggle them together so it lines up nicely, and that's what it ends up looking like. Onto the painting stage of it. So any of the rock parts of it, I undercoated in black with a PVA glue mix. So not worrying about being neat at all on this, and you'll see why in a minute. But yeah, just going across all of the surfaces that are going to be rock-like, which doesn't, went across the entire thing. I'm only going to be showing you just the one corner here. You can see how it just darkens it down a bit, and then the rest of the surfaces, even the top, which was a little bit pointless, I undercoated in brown with PVA just to kind of make it a better surface to work with. Back to the rock surfaces, and I'm using a lighter grey, and I was kind of scribbling across the surface, not going into the detail like I was with the black brush, because it's unnecessary. And then with the white, we are kind of getting some white on the brush, and then only working in a downwards direction to kind of really highlight all of those different lines and undulations that we've created with the hacking at the surface. So you see I'm always just working downwards, and that brings up all of the detail really, really nicely. You can see as I go through it in just a second at speed, just how quickly it ends up looking so much better. And with the grass, we'll be coming on to it in a second. I genuinely think it looks absolutely fantastic. Now, just like the rest of the board, we have it magnetized, so I drilled some little holes. I'm not going to be showing you that again. You can see previous videos if you want to know about that. So putting a few different holes in there, and then putting a magnet in with hot glue, and then putting a little bit of hot glue on top. For those parts, they're going to have flock on top. Just putting a little bit of flock on top of the magnet when I put it all in, as you'll see just here. Just sprinkling some flock on just to kind of really hold that in place, and just making sure that all the magnets are going the same way up. More details on that in other ones. Now, the thing that makes this kind of more unique is having this material on top. I don't really know what this is, to be honest. I bought it on Temu for basically nothing, and the flat surface or the non-rocky surface on top, I was cutting this out, and you can see I'm keep checking whereabouts that is, and just going snip, 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 checking, snip, 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 checking, so that you end up with pieces which are perfectly aligned with the more horizontal surfaces. So the non-cliff faces, you end up with a piece cut out like that. So I did that for for all 4 pieces. So you can see the one there, and then to stick it down, absolutely smothered the top in PVA glue. and put the piece on top. I cut a few little scraps to kind of fill in some gaps there, and then did a little bit of neatening up so it all sat nicely. And then whilst it was still drying, chucked even more PVA glue on top, which had a kind of dual purpose of like solidifying the thing itself, but also provided the surface for the static grass to be going on top, because the entirety of this is covered in static grass. So this is a static grass applicator, creates a static charge, which means that the nylon fibers fall out horizontally, and it really just thickens up this kind of crappy little matte thing that I bought from Temu, which was a waste of money. So I wouldn't get that if I were you. But this is what I used. It ended up looking fine, but I don't think it was necessary. It's a nice surface for the static grass to go on top of. So across all 4 pieces, I went across exactly like this, covering in the entirety of the matting stuff that I'd put on top. And once I'd done that, you have to kind of clear up all the little bits, because you want the cliff faces to remain like cliff faces. You don't want the static grass holding onto it. So most static grass applicators come with these little paintbrush type things, so you can sweep away any excess fibers. So that's what I'm doing here. And this is kind of bringing it towards the end. So to finish off, we have to flock the bottom layer of it, so covering it in PVA glue, and then doing some extra PVA glue up onto the kind of the up sections where the paths might be joining. I didn't show you this, but this does join to the modular path system. So I've got some marks that you can't see on the board, but I can see. So I was sprinkling the path flock so that it was joining up with the paths on the other tiles. And doing some paths right along the edges as well, so there's a bit of variety, but it does end up all joining up. Also, the camera switched off while I was halfway through filming something, so it will just cut off abruptly in a minute. But yeah, the paths, sprinkled it on like that, and then the remaining part of the board, I used the flock that I've used across all of the rest of the board, and then closer to the cliff edges, I used some more grainy, gravelly type stuff to represent perhaps some fallen rocks. But the video will be cutting off very shortly, which is disappointing. But I think at this point you get the idea of how I made it and how it all came together. And this is what it ended up looking like. 3, 2, 1, bang. Yeah, really love how this has come together. I love the cliff faces and the contrast with the rock. I mean, as much as I was slating that matting, I think that it looks fantastic with the static grass on top. So if you like that and you want to support the channel, you can head to patreon.com/goodenoughscenery and get access to all of the parts of this series instantly for just $2. Or if you want your own board, you want to make the wildest dreams of your terrain fantasies, then head to goodenoughscenery.com and you can drop me an email and we can discuss what I can do to make your terrain fantasies come to life. So that's goodenoughscenery.com. Anyway, thanks for watching, and the future parts of the video will be out soon, or early access via my Patreon. Catch you for another video soon.